my family, I love you, my friends, the fans, everybody watching at home, thank you. And last but not least, I want to mention two people who couldn't be here tonight and are watching from above, my grandfather and Joe. Thank you, I love you.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining me on the JM Report. Coming to you from CSB Studios in Tampa, Florida, the home place of pro wrestling. And right off the bat, just want to say I apologize for the background noise, as apparently it's a very busy day at the CSB Studios, and I'll try to minimize the noise, the background noise, as much as possible in between stories here. But as you heard at the beginning, in his own words, Matt Cappotelli thanking his family. That was his brief speech version of his acceptance of the Tough Enough 3 co-winner championship in New York's former, or doesn't exist anymore, but the former WWF New York in Times Square. And it was just, it was heartbreaking because I leave CSB Studios last week. By the way, I'm a day late this week on this episode, and I apologize for that. I had a scheduling conflict, but as I get home and uploading the audio to my YouTube channel, I scroll around to see what other news were there that I didn't cover that I should cover this week. And the first one I see is the story of Matt Cappotelli passing away at the age of 38. Who was battling his second bout with cancer. Unfortunately, a level 4 brain tumor returned after a previous, I guess, encounter with it back in 2003, 2004. But after a vigilant 13-year battle with cancer, he passed away, and it's really sad. The former OVW heavyweight champion died early in the morning after discontinuing treatments for a grade 4 multiform of this brain tumor, which began this past May. He's survived by his wife, Lindsay, who released the following statement via her personal Facebook account. She says, "I've been struggling with what to say and how to say this and probably end up rambling, but here goes. Today, my love, my strong, sweet, beautiful love took his last breath at 3:30 a.m. and went home to be with Jesus. Exactly 1 year after his brain surgery. You think you can be prepared for this when you know it's coming, but you just can't. The only person whose comfort I want now is the one who can't give it to me. I miss him so much. I know where he is now is so much better, but it doesn't change how much I miss him." Yeah, she mentions the surgery from a year ago. That was the attempt to help him with this second bout of the tumor in his brain. Unfortunately, not about 90%, according to the doctors, was able to be removed, and the remaining portion, unfortunately, at that time had already spread, and to go any further could have jeopardized at that time his well-being, as opposed to what ended up happening. But it's a tough position to be in. I mean, what do you say to something like that? I mean, you're told that you have a disease or an illness, and hopefully the doctors are human enough to say, as I'm sure as they were here, what do you want to do? And whatever it is, we'll respect your wishes and make you as comfortable as possible. Obviously, there wasn't any of us as a fly on the wall, so to speak, to hear this personal, intimate conversation as to what the Cappotelli family ended up deciding to do. But a year later, it was just decided. Nature stepped in. Although, depending on your point of view, maybe God stepped in and decided he just needed Matt Cappotelli more than he needed to be here with the rest of us. And again, it's just very sad. This week on WWE, it's reportedly WWE, that is, considering Tough Enough 3 winner Matt Cappotelli as the 2019 Warrior Award recipient at their Hall of Fame next year. This, according to Mike Johnson, recently stated via comicbook.com that there have been discussions within WWE about nominating Cappotelli for the award, citing his 2 battles with brain cancer and bringing awareness to the disease. Now, how the Warrior Award has turned into, or what it's become for the past few years since its original concept by the man himself, the Ultimate Warrior, when was that, 2014? Can't believe it's been that long. I want to believe that initially those who work behind the scenes, the men and women, whether it's lighting, production, audio, video, pyro, when there used to be pyro, and all points in between that bring the show together, the ring crew, the announcers, you know, all those men and women have at some point since the Warrior himself suggested this award. Well, it wasn't called the Warrior, the award itself, but the Jimmy Miranda Award. I would like to think that at some point they have been already acknowledged, maybe in a private meeting or private ceremony by Vince McMahon himself and a lot of other higher-ups within WWE to give them and say their thank yous. If not, then they really should respect the Warrior wishes himself, but hopefully that day will come, again, if it hasn't already. But as far as what it's become, the Warrior Award, it's I think it's similar to what Warrior was speaking about, but rather than just keep it confined in the WWE itself, just spread it out, where I would assume they research and listen or look around to these stories about these young people that go through these unfortunate struggles with a disease or an illness, and they reach a point where, you know, there's nothing left and they keep fighting. Doctors would say, you know, you have X amount of time to live, but all we can do for you now is just to keep you comfortable, and hopefully it'll be enough to ease the inevitable. I know if it was me, because again, I've had a health scare earlier in the year. I know if it was me, I wouldn't accept it. You know, I'll take a minute to let it sink in, but afterwards, like, okay, there has to be something that I can do to not let it interrupt or stop my life, my career, or my goals, or whatever it is that I'm trying to achieve at the time or in the future. And of course, the original recipient was Connor the Crusher, or Crusher Connor. And just shortly after, unfortunately, he passed away. And I know that hit a lot of people hard. I did not even know the young man. I don't even know his family. But knowing that he was such high spirits and he was up there on stage that night at the Hall of Fame, just full of life. And I didn't look into it. I don't think it was ever announced about whatever time he might have had left. But even without that information, you wouldn't even know that it would be coming, because of how he was just outspoken and just full of life, and you know, really touched a lot of people, and including myself. But when the announcement was made that little Connor passed away, and they played that tribute video, I think it was on Monday Night Raw, or I might have seen it on YouTube when they uploaded it. You know, I broke down. I mean, you know, this young kid didn't do anything to deserve that, and no one was at fault, granted, but it's just unfortunate that sometimes these things in life happen beyond the control of anyone, including the person that it's happening to. And the only thing that can be done is accepting it, as hard as it is, and as much as you be in denial or doubt, you just have to accept. And I know that's harsh saying it, even out loud. Thinking about it, so I'm sure it's even worse. But Matt Cappotelli is, at least according to Mike Johnson, being considered for the Warrior Award for the 2019 Hall of Fame. I don't think, or at least I don't remember them announcing a location for the Hall of Fame, as WrestleMania will be at MetLife Stadium again after about 6 years now. That weekend's Hall of Fame was at Madison Square Garden, I believe. So it may or may not be there, or may be at Barclays Center. Who knows? All I know is that they haven't announced it yet. But no matter where it's held, and if these stories are to be true, I would imagine that WWE would reach out to the Cappotelli family and have them accept the Warrior Award on Matt's behalf. But I didn't want to play. It was really tough because I was thinking of the Tough Enough 3 theme song, and for those who know the name of it, I don't think it would have been appropriate. Not that song implied anything, but the title itself I didn't think would have been appropriate. So I chose to play a portion of Matt Cappotelli's acceptance speech at the Tough Enough 3 award ceremony. I was contemplating about the retirement speech he gave in OVW that was recently uploaded on YouTube, and that was even more heartbreaking, and obviously a little longer. And he took the time to explain what had happened when he originally discovered the first brain tumor after he was hospitalized and CAT scans were done, and then it was then that it was discovered and took immediate action. But even after spending time as an OVW trainer after the fact, slowly but surely, the second one came around, and I guess he was prepping for a battle that he wasn't aware of for a second time. And unfortunately, Matt Cappotelli is no longer with us. Again, he was only 38 years old. And I keep forgetting how much younger he was than I am, and how much he could have accomplished in the world of pro wrestling. Maybe not in WWE. Maybe someone like Japan could have picked him up. Lucha Underground for sure. I was just thinking about when I mentioned the Cappotelli family accepting the Warrior Award, if it comes to that, who would induct them? Of course, Dana White will make the presentations, but as far as introducing the family, a very huge candidate, maybe number one, maybe two, but I guess depending where you stand with them, it could either be The Miz, which would be easy for WWE to pull off, or John Morrison, or John Hennigan, or Johnny Nitro. Choose your pick of what you want to call him, because those two guys were the co-winners of that season of Tough Enough, and they worked together. They broke in together when they had their debut matches on Raw, though brief, but it's part of the archives. It's part of history. So maybe that'll be another part of the conversation / argument as far as who will be chosen to induct Matt Cappotelli in the 2019 WWE Hall of Fame. But for now, all I can say is, we're going too soon. He has so much left to accomplish. I would have loved to have seen him make a comeback of sorts to the main roster of WWE, or at best NXT, where, for lack of a better term, take your time crafting your art, your skills, because working in different companies and independent promotions, the rings are different, and of course they prep you differently as well as far as presentations and how to work the crowd, because they're different all over the place. They may sound the same, but sometimes a lot of crowds have to be worked differently. But in any case, we're going to miss Matt Cappotelli, and hopefully he's no longer suffering. We're going to move on here. In other news, is it a work? Is it a shoot? Talking about Brock Lesnar with the Universal Championship. It's a mixed bag here. It's he said, she said nonsense. It's a flip-flopping story. And it's kind of cooled off towards the end of this weekend in particular. But reportedly, Lesnar may not be defending the Universal title at SummerSlam. This once again, according to Mike Johnson. He says if he doesn't enter the USADA testing pool by June 29th, which we are past, he won't be able to fight the winner of the Stipe Miocic-Daniel Cormier heavyweight title match, which takes place tonight, by the way, on December 29th, or fight John Jones if somehow they can figure out a way to retain a smidge credibility of their drug testing programming and somehow give John Jones less than 2 years of a positive steroid test. John Jones is currently serving a suspension, and some of these guys who have been suspended for a year or more have normally just wait it out and make a comeback. But in Jones's case, I think it's been one too many times personally, and the man cannot be trusted. I wouldn't even trust him as far as I can throw him. So scratch that idea. On a side note, I'm really excited / curious about this champion versus champion match tonight between Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. Of course, DC is the current UFC light heavyweight champion, and Miocic will be defending his heavyweight championship. And this will be the second time that we will have a guaranteed double champion, or champ, as Conor McGregor used to say. But adding to the story was Brian Alvarez, who took to the Wrestling Observer on a live podcast and commented that as of this juncture, no one knows whether Lesnar has entered into the USADA pool, but it's up to the fighter, and in this case Lesnar, to make the announcement. If Lesnar does not enter the USADA pool by the end of the day, which was again back on June 29th, he would reportedly be he would reportedly be unable to compete in the UFC for the remainder of 2018. However, Dave Meltzer says all of this is yet to be determined. But again, since the June 29th deadline, there hasn't been any reports of any kind, and no one's mentioned Brock Lesnar since then, other than, again, trying to figure out whether or not he will appear at SummerSlam. And some people think, well, actually more people think that this all is a work, and it's just something to throw everyone off and keep it from guessing, because they're kind of using this as a storyline now, where Lesnar may or may not show up on a Raw, may or may not show up at a whatever pay-per-view is coming up next, and not defend the title because he has the specific scheduled dates when he wants to show up. But I don't see no one forcing really Lesnar, especially Vince or any of the agents, say, hey, it would be nice if you just show up at this night, even though you're not scheduled for it, but we'll cough up the extra thousands of dollars for you to show, and maybe even drop the belt, because, you kind of have to. Ever since that championship debuted back in SummerSlam a couple of years ago, it was already treated kind of like a joke because the way it looked, the physical appearance of the Universal title. I heard everything from the Twizzler title, the Fruit Roll-Up Championship, all these kinds of messed up names, and I was willing to give it a chance, and maybe having it all red could have been, well, okay, we obviously don't want to keep the title on Raw, so that would make sense. But then again, I didn't see them changing the color of the strap of the WWE Championship to blue, for example. But I guess sometimes you got to do some things a little different, be similar or look alike, but still stand out as differently. And since then, we have maybe less than a handful of champions. You have Kevin Owens, Finn Balor for a day, Goldberg, and Brock Lesnar. And ever since, as many would say, he's been holding that title hostage. Maybe there is a contract dispute, as his contract is up about September 1st, I believe. So it's coming up. So the original belief was Lesnar shows up and faces whomever at SummerSlam, Rollins, Roman, whomever, Strowman, drop the belt and return to UFC. And again, going by the original plan of Lesnar showing up on the December 29th UFC show or pay-per-view to face the winner of Stipe and Daniel. But definitely that idea with John Jones, again, that was never going to happen, regardless of whatever status Jones was in, or even Lesnar will be in at that time. So, like I always say here, folks, let's just wait and see what happens. And me personally, I would try not to act too surprised. Vince McMahon intends to make the NFL the premier football league in the country. Okay. And to do so, he will be investing quite a lot. Many people remember that Vince McMahon sold $100 million of his stock in WWE to begin funding the league. But as it turns out, that was only the beginning. In an interview with ESPN, Oliver Luck, who was appointed the league's CEO, made the following statement. People were focused on the $100 million. But the truth is that doesn't even get us to the 20-yard line. A little football analogy there, I guess. The biggest cost will be the player and coach's salary, with Luck going on to say that the average salary will be around $75,000, an increase of about $30,000 from the original league back in 2001. It's also been revealed that even before announcing the relaunch of the XFL, Vince McMahon secured insurance for the players. While no details have been revealed about how much coverage the league will have, as it was that the insurance prelims, I should say, will cost around $10 million a year. So he's going to really look out for his players as opposed to his quote-unquote independent contract wrestlers in the WWE. I mean, it sounds like I'm stirring the pot, but think about it. Even after the $1 billion deal that has become official as of last week, you still can't even at least contemplate the slightest bit about having some kind of health coverage for your wrestlers who either half the time have to pay out of pocket if something seriously happens to them. And granted, WWE had stepped up many times to cover surgical procedures at hospitals and rehab locations for therapy. They have, don't get me wrong on that. Don't mistake me for not knowing some of the details, but it just it's like a catch-22, I guess. And maybe some of the ideas as far as how to take care of your players and coaches will linger back to WWE and how to take care of your agents and wrestlers and so on. But I understand health coverage that is, could be expensive as all hell, and the payments have to come from somewhere. If not out of pocket or your employer, then I would seriously be one of those people that, when it comes to contract negotiations to renewal, for example, I would want to bring that up, or at least have maybe not too many, but some do have agents that represent them. Like, I'm sure Lesnar did, but he's such a hot commodity, at least he was at the time when they re-signed him to return in, 2012? And had all these demands, but I guess he's going to be paid so much. What does it matter of having health coverage from WWE? But that's Vince McMahon's idea right now. I can't even say the man's name, so torn me between that. And there was another story about spending another $500 million into the league, but we'll see. WWE.com has announced the signing of Japanese wrestler. Oh, I hope I pronounced this right. Io Shirai, 28 years old, from Japan. Shirai was on hand during the WWE's recent tour of the country as the 11-year-old veteran. Not 11 years in the business, not that she's 11 years old. She's 28 years old and has had 11 years experience. Has met with many of the WWE superstars backstage, having runs in Pro Wrestling Wave, JWP, Sendai Girls Pro Wrestling, AAA, Osaka Pro Wrestling, the Oz Academy, just to name a few. I mean, this lady's been all over the place: Mexico, Asia, America, and spent most of her career in World Wonder Ring Stardom since 2011. Back in October of 2016, the Wrestling Observer newsletter reported that both Shirai and Kiri Hojo have been contacted and offered by WWE with contracts starting in 2017. Shirai had informed Stardom's management that she was taking the offer. And you fast forward to March of 2017, Shirai took the part in a WWE trial at the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. And the trial was not supposed to go public, but due to the communication issues, she was featured on WWE's official website in an article that was taken down shortly afterwards. After the tryout, Shirai confirmed that she has been offered a contract and made her first appearance for the promotion on June 30th, 2018 at a WWE live event at the Ryukoku Sumo Hall. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that, and I apologize. Where it was announced then that she has signed with the promotion and will be competing with NXT. I've seen bits and clips of this young lady, and she seems to be an amazing athlete, a great wrestler, very technical, high flyer, and I'm really glad still that at least NXT anyway is still reaching out and signing these talents from around the world, not just keeping it domestic, but yeah, you kind of need it to mix it up a little bit. And I only wonder who else to have their eyes on. It's interesting to see that they've been in the UK and Japan specifically in the past couple of months alone. So I think there was still a rumor that they will have another live event back in Asia, but have a similar event televised on their network, just like they had with the UK tournament. So hopefully somebody follows up on that. This one was a bit of a head scratcher, and you let me know. The Daily Mail reported that Linda Hogan, ex-wife of Hulk Hogan, is accusing the Hulkster of financial treachery and hiding earnings owed to her since 2009 during their divorce settlement. According to the documents filed in Tampa, Florida, Linda says Hulk Hogan has not been paying her 40% share of revenue he owes her from their divorce, claiming he's hiding earnings from 7 different business ventures. For those who don't know or do not remember, Linda was awarded 70% of the couple's liquid assets, properties totaling $3 million, and a 40% share in the revenue in a divorce. Linda claims she was instrumental in his success as a wrestler and has failed to comply, Hogan was, with the original agreement to pay up. She now says that she wants money owed from July 2013 till now and wants Hulk Hogan to be held accountable and contempt of court if he doesn't pay. Linda's lawyer, Raymond Rafool, offered the following statement. It is indeed a shame that Hulk Hogan once again will not honor his divorce agreement he made with Mrs. Balea. Linda fulfilled and fulfills her obligations and exchange assets and rights in return for Hogan's compliance. This background noise is really distracting. I apologize for that. Hulk Hogan's breaches are wrong and unjust. He needs to do as he agreed and pay Linda what she's owed. You know, something like this wouldn't come out unless there's truth behind it. And it's funny that none of this has mentioned, assuming it will have anything to do with it, about Hulk Hogan's recent victory over Gawker. And what did he get there? About $125 million. And last I heard, Gawker doesn't even come close to paying the full amount, even though they were trying to appeal. But it's a no-brainer. Gawker has no legs to stand on anymore. But I don't think, at least from what that was shared here, it doesn't sound like, but to be a little sneaky, and the fact that Hogan virtually regained what he lost in the divorce in one swoop. in the trial with Gawker, that Linda might have been on the sidelines and, well, if Hulk wins, then he's going to owe me some of that because maybe it was adultery. He cheated on me at this time. It's hard to say because the timeline is very confusing whether he was still with Linda or separated from Linda or whatever the deal was personally. Well, one, it's not my business, and two, it doesn't really affect me much as far as what's going to happen. But unfortunately, there are legal documents that say Hogan owes Linda a lot of money since 2013 up until now. And that may or may not include the Gawker battle or the suit and whatever else Hogan's been up to lately, opening recently a new beach shop in Orlando after closing down the one near Clearwater. He still has his small retail store, Hogan's Beach House. That's still there, but I believe it was a conjoint business transaction with Hard Rock in Clearwater, Florida. But unfortunately, that shut down a couple of years ago, and he relocated it to Orlando. So I don't know if the income or the revenues of the store itself are owed to Linda. I'm not sure. Again, if it's not mentioned, then it shouldn't be part of the case. But hopefully, all this will be resolved sooner than later. I couldn't imagine how the kids feel about this. Sports Illustrated reports that the WWE Network's Something Else to Wrestle With is going to air its season finale this coming Wednesday, exclusively on the WWE Network. And the finale's controversial subject will be none other than CM Punk. Punk parted ways with the WWE back in 2014 in somewhat controversial manner. And this will, the story, the podcast, if you will, the interview between Comrade and Bruce Pritchard will include the recent lawsuit between CM Punk and Dr. Amann. Hopefully, Comrade Thompson will discuss WWE's reaction to this. This is my personal take as far as the result of that lawsuit. Even though he and Pritchard were not there for any of this altercation, but Comrade Thompson he's really good in doing research, and it's not as simple as it sounds, because unless you know where to look or who to speak to, then you won't get all the details. But again, Thompson and Pritchard were not around for this. Matter of fact, it's funny that shortly after they started Something to Wrestle With, and they just, let it rip with these stories. Held no punches, best as we could tell, even though there are two sides of the story. But Bruce Pritchard's sharing a lot of insight from his perspective, from what he saw, from what he heard, and many behind-the-scenes stories with just about anyone in the business that's came and went since the late 80s when he joined with the World Wrestling Federation. And I just got done listening to the episode of last night with Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and quite enlightening. Too bad they couldn't cover some WCW stories. Obviously, they weren't there for that, but, they were just reading off a lot of the stories and information from Brutus's autobiography book. But I would definitely tune into this one. I believe they debut midday. These episodes are uploaded on the network. And more for curiosity stakes than anything else of what exactly they're going to mention or have any reactions from WWE's point of view. And they did do an episode about CM Punk, his rise in the WWE/ECW. But obviously that doesn't include what happened in 2014. It doesn't include what happened just a couple of weeks ago with the suit between Punk and Dr. Amann. So definitely tune in, as I will, this coming Wednesday. Jim Ross does not believe that he will be involved with the Mae Young Classic because WWE has not even contacted him yet. I hope they do. Maybe do I guess if it has to be a three-man team, announced team between Jim Ross, Mauro Ranallo, and oh my goodness, the name just left my brain here. Nigel McGuinness. There we go. That would be my personal three-man announced team for something like a Mae Young Classic event, which I think I will rewatch the original just to catch up to see who's still around and who is not with the company, at least not with NXT, because there were a lot of great talent that was picked up and a lot that were unfortunately either never offered a contract or just came in for that one-time exposure and just never looked back. Speaking of stories I debated to talk about, it's quite a lot, but it has something to do with the now case closed issue with the former Enzo Amore, now going by Real One, as the Phoenix Police Department released, well, not released, but it's not public record, the statements of the investigation and a report from said investigation that the former Enzo Amore was involved with of an alleged sexual assault and rape charges. And Pro Wrestling Sheet was able to obtain a copy of the investigation report. And the report shows that Enzo was never informed of the department's initial investigation, and that the police department of Phoenix did not inform Amore until after this, the victim, oh my God, have you seen her name? Well, I'll call her by her last name. Shehan made her accusations public via social media. Philly? I'm sorry, I'm really bad with pronouncing names, but Shehan, it's the last name. Anyway, the Pro Wrestling Sheet goes on to say the police did not confirm that the investigation being made public did lead to the witness coming forward, possibly Shehan's friend Sam Cook. I believe that was the same individual that also took to social media and basically discredited Shehan about her being a reckless liar. She always makes up stories, don't always take everything she believes for its worth. And that was I guess not the tip of the iceberg, but what changed the momentum, if you will, of the case against Enzo at the time. The report also states that she was taken to a forensic exam 4 days after the incident was reported, and no male DNA was present on the alleged victim. Interesting. In reviewing the investigation, it does not warrant the submission for any criminal charges at this time. There is insignificant evidence to corroborate the victim's disclosure of sexual assault. There were no witnesses to the incident, and a forensic examination and crime lab results do not prove evidence of a sexual assault at this time. The suspect did not give a direct statement to police, but did give an indirect statement through his attorney that all contact with the victim was consensual. Cell phone and social media data of information of the initial statements about the incident, and there is no cell phone or social media data that corroborates the sexual assault disclosure. Witnesses' statements made to law enforcement saying that about the victim's statement. Video surveillance does not confirm the parties involved were together at the hotel where allegedly this assault took place on the night in question. The footage also confirms the victim leaving that morning. The video surveillance does not capture or corroborate the disclosure of sexual assault. The facts of the case do not allow this case to proceed at this time. In the event of that additional evidence comes to light that can collaborate with the victim's disclosure of sexual assault, this case cannot be reopened and further investigated. Until such evidence is located or provided, this case will be closed. And the statement or the document itself actually ends with the words, "Case closed." So the Phoenix Police Department statement seems, ironically, also to collaborate with what Enzo Amore ended up saying in the recent Stone Cold podcast show, where the Real One says, "Why does my cell phone keep ringing during these rehearsals? I look and I see the tweet. That's how I found out. I didn't know anything. I called Mark Carano immediately, linked up with a lawyer and WWE's in-house attorney. They asked me about the situation, and I'm completely transparent. The police had never contacted me about this, not once, not one time." So it kind of mirrors each other, and Enzo has gone on record even before any of this was provided through public records or any statements or documents obtained by anyone. So he's pretty much has been saying the same story since day one. And that the belief that the WWE still was convinced that Enzo was aware of this investigation that was ongoing, but failed to inform them about it. And also finding out what kind of a situation it was or what kind of investigation it ended up being gave all the leverage and power within WWE to terminate him basically on the spot. And looking back now, maybe a suspension or at least a leave of absence to, like, go figure your stuff out and come back to us. Otherwise, we can't have someone like you that's being accused of such a horrendous crime and still be employed and on TV earning money. It just doesn't make sense. And I say someone like you because I'm sure we've heard stories about being thrown out of a bus or being thrown out of a locker room, being obnoxious, being just a bunch of pretty much being described and called everything under the sun other than what this case closed situation used to be. That Enzo is not a sexual predator. He's not a registered offender or anything like that. But it's looking back, I'm sure maybe not now as much, but further down the line, we can all look back at this and kind of laugh at it, because whatever agenda this alleged victim had, maybe because Enzo didn't want to sign an autograph or didn't want to take a selfie because reasons, and just decided to make up a story about this guy. I mean, I've had unfortunate circumstances like that where a wrestler I met in public and just wouldn't want to take a selfie or sign an autograph. It's not like I cornered them or ran up to them and made it look awkward. No, just walk up politely, respectfully. Hey, how you doing, Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, even if you call them by their professional name. May I or can I trouble you for a quick selfie or anything? Just ask. There's nothing wrong with asking. Telling them is a different story, and it's all about presentation and first impressions. I'm aware of there being stalkers and those people that take it a step further and finding out when your plane lands at a certain airport and you just happen to show up there and you wonder why they get awkward and ended up filing a restraining order on you. But there's a right way and a wrong way. Obviously, as mentioned in documents, no one witnessed any of this, so it's difficult to say. Enzo didn't really open up as far as what could have led to this, other than just she just did it and cost him a job and a tremendous push too. So who knows how far Enzo would have really ended up at this point, leading into SummerSlam with the Cruiserweight Championship. But hopefully cooler heads prevail, give it another couple of years, if not more, and realizing that WWE still had to do what they ended up doing, but it wasn't on a mistake because no one knew all the details. No one knew all the facts. Maybe an apology is in order if it hasn't been done already, but I see them still doing business together. But we'll see how Real One's rap career continues on, but time will tell. Dave Meltzer took to the Wrestling Observer Radio to give an update on quite a few WWE superstar injuries that have currently been out of action. Of course, I mentioned last week Lars Sullivan with a broken jaw, and unfortunately there's no return date yet. Earlier this week, it was reported Ruby Riott sprained her MCL, unfortunately, and will likely be out for a couple of weeks, and evaluation will take place at the end of the month. No surgery required so far, as there was no tear, just a sprained MCL. Shinsuke Nakamura's dog bite seems to be healing pretty well, and Shinsuke has been announced to appear at Extreme Rules to face Jeff Hardy for the United States Championship. However, Shinsuke does have a doctor's appointment this coming Monday. Bray Wyatt, as many of you know, missed this past week's Raw because of an unfortunate car accident. It's unexpected. Bray, that is not expected to compete at this weekend's house shows, but he has met with doctors this past Friday and could be cleared to return as early as this Monday on Raw. no further updates since then. But no clear. It wasn't clear if JoJo was in the same car accident as she also no-showed Monday Night Raw. Now, no one's confirmed this, and I'm not going simply because JoJo wasn't ring announcing on Raw, but there were rumors, small, little, tiny noise rumors about JoJo being in the same car with Bray Wyatt and might have also been injured. And unfortunately, this also feeds into that story of Bray seeing JoJo behind everyone else's back. But hey, it happens. Hearts do get broken, emotions do get scrambled, and a lot of people get hurt emotionally. But we're all human beings, and the point I'm trying to make is that people got hurt physically. At least Bray Wyatt for sure. And again, I don't know about JoJo's whereabouts on Monday. There weren't any social media posts for a few days, and I would assume whatever issues took place between Bray Wyatt's, I guess now ex-wife or separated wife, himself, and JoJo have been more or less worked out or still in the process. But personally, I just found it a little too convenient that JoJo was not on Raw, just like Bray Wyatt wasn't. I'm not trying to speculate or fuel any fire of any kind, but just wondering myself if JoJo was in that car accident as well. Many believe that Daniel Bryan will not re-sign with WWE. This according to WrestleVote's Twitter account. Regarding Daniel Bryan and his contract, WWE has a strong idea on what he is going to do. So much so that months ago, the decision was made to have the 2K19 showcase revolve around him. Having that game released without Bryan on the roster wouldn't look so good. However, Daniel Bryan had an interview with Gorilla Position podcast, sharing his thoughts about wanting a lighter schedule on the road as he missed Birdie's, his daughter, Birdie's first birthday, and wants to spend more time with his daughter and his wife, Bree. Bryan added that it was different from when either himself or Bree were on the road and were away from each other, and being away from their daughter hurt them a lot. Bryan also revealed that he wants a lighter WWE schedule between 50 to 100 matches a year. Also adding that one of his doctors, who had cleared him to return to the ring, had advised him that the lesser exposure he had, the healthier he would be. So why this wasn't brought up sooner is beyond me, or at least not publicly. I'm sure this had to have been brought up in the meetings between Vince McMahon, creative, and agents when the announcement was finally made of Daniel Bryan coming out of retirement and was able to continue wrestling and had to surrender his general manager title on SmackDown. But Danny's been going at least every week. Okay, he's not wrestling every week, depending on what's going on with him story-wise. But he has appeared on television just about every week since his return, and has gone to live events or house shows, if you will. Maybe that'll be included as part of his 50 or 100 matches a year idea. Maybe WWE has taken all this under consideration and is yet to come back to him with an answer. Because let's face it, everyone's pretty much saying Daniel Bryan has not signed yet, and come September 1st, where his current contract expires, he may not resign. And it's not a question about having more money. That's not mentioned at all. It's not about getting more exposure or get a run for the title and this and that. No, he just wants to spend more time with the family, considering the health issues that he's gone through the past couple of years, or the past 3 years since his initial retirement. It's like walking on eggshells, and it's a little of a delicate situation. And I think asking for a lighter schedule isn't asking for too much, considering what the man has put, his body, his mind, his health, his emotions, all that wrapped in one through the years that he's been with the business and leading into the WWE. He's probably the most popular guy in the company right now, And it'll be nice to see him with at least one more title run before he calls it quits for good. But I don't think he wants to quit anytime soon. And the only freedom he'll have to do so anywhere is not be in WWE, which is very unfortunate. But this coming into light, he wants to spend time with the family and be there for his daughter and his wife. That may even limit him for independent appearances. So basically, you have to work around his schedule. And he may ask for a very high price tag for appearances, but, I say he's worth it. But, just giving this man the benefit of the doubt, he deserves a little break like this while still doing what he loves to do, and that is being in the ring. So hopefully something will come out of this real soon, as the deadline is fast approaching. We're about a month and a half away, a month and 3 weeks from his current contract expiring. I'm not sure if it has a clause where the WWE can choose to automatically renew it without having him really in the room or his consent. They'll just extend it whatever time period they want and still negotiate in the meantime. But see what happens. The WWE has filed a trademark for the Dr. Shelby character, who returned this past week on Raw to consult Sasha Banks and Bayley, which was okay, I guess, at best. Shelby first appeared back in 2012 after being hired by AJ Lee as Daniel Bryan and Kane's therapist. And this is where Team Hell No was born, and coincidentally returned around the same time as Dr. Shelby did, about a week apart from each other. I thought that was interesting. So the WWE has filed for the trademark for the Dr. Shelby name, and could mean that we could see him in future appearances. Well, if they can be a little bit more entertaining than what we saw on Monday, then I'll be okay with it. But that's just me. Hall of Famer Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is in great spirits after successful hip replacement surgery this week. After 4 hours, the Dragon gave a thumbs up on his Twitter, thanking all the fans who kept him in his thoughts. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't know until after it was posted up. But the man seems to be doing much better. He's always looked healthy, including here, despite the hip replacement surgery. So he's doing really well, and hopefully have a speedy recovery and be back with WWE real soon. And I'll end with this because, mainly because a lot's been going on with me this week, and there were so many stories that I could have come up with not come up with, but share that's been out there and voice my opinion about each one. And a lot of them weren't as, I guess, as important as the ones I've shared so far. I would want to give a special shout out to Ronda Rousey, who was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame this week, as the UFC is getting ready for UFC, 226 tonight, matter of fact. I'm going to try to catch that show, and hopefully, you know what? I'm a fan of both Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier, so I'm kind of stuck in the middle. Don't know who to root for, but I'm hoping it would be a great match, an epic title defense from whomever the winner is going to be, and be a double champion, and see what happens with the belt that I guess was lost from the previous champion, and have the two top contenders of that weight class, more than likely the light heavyweight title, strive for. So it should be good, should be entertaining. But independent wrestler and former Ring of Honor wrestler Taylor Hendricks has shared the following on Twitter, responding to a fan who said that they missed the House of Truth in Ring of Honor. Her reply to the tweet that a fan misses that, Taylor said, I don't. Just flat out said, I don't. It should have been the House of Hendricks. What has the Truth or Jay done? Jay Lethal in this case. What do they draw? Being a funny guy with a book. The other one only talks about his time in Impact, copying legends. For real, brah. The legacy is copying legends. That was just one tweet. Another fan would lay out Jay Lethal's career highlights and says, Hendricks would end up replying to this tweet. Also, the dude you're standing up for is the same dude that told me because I didn't sleep with him, they sabotaged me and took me off television. That being the almighty Jay. Wow. Then out of nowhere, Taylor just vented out about claims that her ROH push was sabotage, as she said, and had about several tweets in the span of one day. The first one was, silence is acceptance that allows a corrupt system to divide and conquer. I don't accept that anymore. Silence is death-defying and acceptance is blinding. We deserve better. The second tweet said, I know this is going to be on all wrestling sites. My name is Taylor, and this is my statement. And this is my statement. Attorneys of mine on my behalf have an ongoing investigation. I know I'm not the only one, and people that have known of this investigation have been supportive. I'll continue to fight for what's right. So the fire's been lit here, folks. And her third tweet was, let the hate roll in. Doesn't change what happened. I came forward privately long ago, and now it's public. If I stay silent, I'll be part of the problem. I can't live with that. I'll fight for what's right. Threatening me, supposed to burn bridges, changes nothing. Let the hate roll in. Yeah, and this kind of forced Ring of Honor to come out with a statement of their own. And thanks to the PW Torch regarding these allegations made against Jay Lethal, and Ring of Honor will go on to say, we were troubled to hear the allegations that surfaced last night on Twitter, but this was earlier in the week. We take these matters very seriously and will investigate the situation thoroughly, reviewing all evidence relating to the matter. Ring of Honor strives to provide an environment and workplace where male and female wrestlers are free from any misconduct or abuse. We will take appropriate actions upon the conclusion of our findings. This comes after Jay Lethal won the Ring of Honor World title, defeating Dalton Castle back on June 30th, which was just about a week ago. And between that and now was when all these accusations came about. So as a performer, I like Jay Lethal. I try to reach out to him several occasions for an interview and never got a reply. But it's just tough, man. I mean, this is somewhat similar to the Enzo Amore situation, but apparently these two have worked together, or at least been in the same company together at some point, and something happened. If it's anything like what these accusations are, it's not going to look good if all proven as fact. And that Jay Lethal may just have to face consequences and deal with the storm that's coming. Now, I'm going to reserve judgment. I don't know Taylor Hendricks any more than what's been presented through Ring of Honor or any footage that's been, say, on YouTube. Same thing with Jay Lethal. I followed him in his earlier career in Impact and TNA when it was still in Orlando, still doing his, machismo gimmick, or Mr. Matt, or whatever he called himself when he was portraying Macho Man Randy Savage for a little bit there in TNA. And it really sucks. I mean, to be accused of something like this, it would hit someone to the core. Emotionally, psychologically, mentally. It's like you've been, in all fairness and giving everyone here the benefit of the doubt, you can be the nicest person in the world for the longest time, and then out of nowhere, for reasons unknown from the person themselves that's making such accusations, and I would imagine your heart will skip a beat. I'm like, wow, I've just been accused of sexual assault, and as God is witness, it never happened, but for reasons for that this person only knows, now I got to face the music. Hopefully this all works out for everyone's benefits, and if it's similar ending, if the ending is similar to the Enzo Amore situation, I don't think this female wrestler Hendricks will be trusted ever again, let alone be hired by anyone because of what she's trying to do here. Again, allegedly. I know more than the next person listening to this. So as the time rolls by, hopefully have more information and find out who's telling the truth and who isn't. On that note, I want to thank everyone that was listening in. I kind of rushed this week's episode because, well, first, I'm a day late. And second, a lot of activity going on here at the CSB studios. So had to come in and given the time I was allowed to come up with content for the show. And here it is. So thank you everyone for listening. If you have any questions or want to make a statement, please leave them on the comment section below. Click that like button, subscribe to my channel. If you want to send me any other questions or requests to cover a story here, IAmGoodOlJM at gmail.com is the place to send everything. And I usually reply almost immediately, so feel free to reach out. Don't be afraid. Don't be strangers. And until next time, this is GoodOlJM with the JM Report, coming for you, not for you, but coming to you from CSB Studios in Tampa, Florida, the birthplace of pro wrestling. Everyone be safe. Enjoy your weekend. If you watch UFC tonight, let me know who you're cheering for in the comments below, and I will share the results and my thoughts of that next week as Stipe Miocic